Hello friends, welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to share with you what our family has used for this last month of October to learn about the Reformation. I mentioned in I think it was like a homeschool vlog a while back that I was planning to do a little bit of a study of the Reformation during the month of October. Every year I get to Reformation Day and then I'm like, oh, I wanted to study that with my kids, and then we never end up doing it. But this year, thankfully, I remembered and I was able to put a little something together. I used books that are on my shelves. I did not purchase any new materials for this, and I kept it real simple. I have 4 children that did this study with me. They are 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. And then my older kids continued on with their regular studies and learning what they were learning. They did not join us for this study. So I kept it really simple because I had younger kids doing it. And I just thought today that I would show you some of the books that I used to do it. Alright, so the first book that we used, that we read through, we're almost finished because it is our last week of doing this study, is The Reformation ABCs. This book just has a person for each letter of the alphabet and pretty short reading. We read a couple people a day, discussed them, and it just gives a real quick overview of the Reformation and the people of the Reformation and some of the events of the Reformation. So we started with this, I think we read this yesterday. We are all the way to X. So we've got today and tomorrow left that we'll be reading this book, but this is the Reformation ABCs. This is forwarded by R.C. Sproul, and I think you can get this on Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description box for you. You can go check it out. Another book that I recommend to go along with this is the Church History ABCs. It is a bit bigger. So this is the Church History ABCs. It is written by the same person and illustrated by the same person. But this one we have gone through several times. It doesn't necessarily stick to just the Reformation like this one does, but all of church history. So this is a fantastic resource if you have younger kids, even if you have older kids who have never studied these things. There is some information in here about different people and events that have happened in church history. Ours is well loved. I've got taped pages. We've read through this a couple times with our children. So these 2 books I highly recommend, especially for the Reformation ABCs, and we are just about finished with this one, so we'll have read through the entire thing. The next book that we used is Early Church Fathers. This is by Marilyn Boyer, and this came from Master Books. They actually have a whole new series coming out of these Legends of the Faith books. This was the first one, and I saw it when I was putting in my order for our curriculum this last summer and decided to grab it just because I thought it looked interesting. This is more of a middle school aged reader if you just want to give this to your child to read on their own. It has got some longer chapters in it, and it just goes through some of the men who were early church fathers who started the church. And so in this book we studied Martin Luther. Of course, he is the first man who started the Reformation. So we started with him. We also read about John Calvin, John Knox, and then this week we are reading about John Fox. So instead of trying to fit everyone in, I decided since I had 4 weeks, I would pick 4 people and we would read about those 4 people and do notebooking about them. So that's what I did. I chose these 4 men, and then so what we would do, I spread out each chapter over a week. So I started with the chapter on Martin Luther, and I would read a couple pages of this chapter every day, and then we would have discussion and narration. I would have the kids tell me back what they remembered from the chapter, and we did that every day. Another resource I used each week is this Torchlighter set. I actually got this for free somehow at some point. We did have some of them, but this is the entire collection, and I was able to pick, I think each week we watched a video off of here. It wasn't always the exact person that we had studied that week, but it did go along with the Reformation. So we watched Martin Luther on here. We watched, oh no, we have not watched every week actually. I take that back because we've been watching these even for just our regular schooling. So we watched Martin Luther, we watched William Tyndale, I want to watch John Bunyan, and I think that was all of them on here for the Reformation. So this is a great resource. I'll try to find it, leave a link for you down in the description box. If I can find the free link, I'll do that for you too. But I got this free, came with the DVD set and a workbook that goes with it. Unfortunately, I haven't used the workbook. I can't make copies of it legally. And so I just haven't used it because I've got so many kids. But I do flip through it to get some ideas of anything that we might want to do to go along with these DVDs. But these are really good DVDs. All sorts of people on there that are definitely worth learning about and teaching your children about, and my kids enjoy watching these. Okay, so this DVD, these DVDs we used along with the early church fathers. Another book that I read while we were learning about Martin Luther was The Barber Who Wanted to Pray. This is just a real cute story about this barber, and this is Martin Luther. He goes to get his hair cut, and this man asks help in his prayer time. And so it just goes through some of Martin Luther's teachings on prayer. It's just a fun little picture book that the kids enjoyed listening to. And then the last resource I used from our shelves is the Reformation Heroes. This is by, let's see, Diane Klein with Joel Beakey. And this book is packed full of information. It says it is an illustrated overview for older children and teens. And so in this book we're reading about John Knox, or not John Knox, John Fox. Lots of Johns back in the Reformation. There were a lot of Johns. So John Fox, there's a couple pages here of information about him that we are reading. There is a lot of information in this book. A lot. Each of these pages is full of words, lots of people that you can learn about of the Reformation. If you wanted to do a year-long study of the Reformation, this book would be an excellent resource for that because there's so much information in there. So I'll leave a link for this also in the description. I believe my husband got this at the Shepherd's Conference several years ago, and we haven't read it in full, but we use it in bits and pieces like this to read about certain people. So along with these resources, I printed off some notebooking pages from notebookingpages.com. I am a lifetime member of notebookingpages.com. It's something I bought several years ago, and I have used it every year since then, and I really enjoy it. They have pages for just about everything you could possibly think of, and so I like to go on there and find notebooking pages to go along with what we're learning. And then on top of that, they also have blank notebooking pages, which is what this one is, because they did not have one for John Fox. So I had to print off a blank page, and I'll have the kids we will make a copy of the picture in the book, or they can draw a picture, and then I have them write some information here. They can put a title up here at the top, but this is just a pretty basic notebooking page. And they've already done some for the other guys that we learned about. Let me grab those and show them to you. Alright, so this is Cadence's school binder. She is in 6th grade, and so she does the most, she fills hers out the most. She likes to have it while I'm reading, and then she will take notes on her sheet while I'm reading. And so hers is filled out the most. I see for John Knox she didn't draw a picture, but John Calvin, she copied a picture from the book and glued it down at the bottom there, and then she's got some information written about him up at the top. And John Knox is the same without the picture cut out. And then Martin Luther, she did the same thing. She copied the picture and then wrote all the information out about him. So for my younger kids, when we have the notebooking pages, there are a couple of them still that struggle with writing and spelling. And so what I'll do is just ask them, I'll ask all of the kids when we're finished, what are some things we can put on our notebooking pages? And then I will use my dry erase board and I will write out all of those things, one sentence at a time. And that way they can pick and choose what sentences they want to put on their pages. And for my little list guy, I'll just ask him, what do you want to write about? He tells me, and then I will underline the sentence that he needs to write on his page. So depending on how old my kids are, that determines how much information I have them put down on their pages. Now I do have my 6th grader and my 3rd grader. Both of them don't hardly ask for help at all. They just write and write and write, and they remember things and they write them all down. And I am not real strict with spelling, and I don't want to stifle their excitement of writing on these pages. So these are not writing assignments necessarily that need to be spelled correctly, all of the punctuation and everything correct. This is an opportunity for them to get all the information that they've learned about this person out of their heads and onto a piece of paper, and learning how to communicate that from their thoughts into writing. So I don't worry about the spelling, I don't worry about the punctuation. For the most part, I just let them write. So my 3rd grader, she will fill her page up and she will write more on the back. My 6th grader, she does the same thing. She fills up her lines and then she usually is done once her lines are full. Now my 2 boys, who are 5th grade and 1st grade, I have to make them write more because otherwise they will put the bare minimum they can on their page. So the 1st grader, he's got to write at least his 1 sentence and draw a picture. I do make him draw a picture. He does enjoy that more than the older kids do. And then my 5th grader, I make him usually write at least 4 or 5 sentences on his page. My general rule is whatever grade you're in is how many sentences you need to write. So if he's in 5th grade, he needs to have at least 5 sentences. And I just help him with that by letting him do copy work instead of feeling overwhelmed. That's real overwhelming for him. He's still learning to read, and reading and spelling and writing are a struggle for him. Very overwhelming. So for me to say write 5 sentences and not help him at all is way too much for him. So I write it out on my board. He can copy it, do copy work, and he gets down the information that he remembers out of the book. All right, so that is it for our Reformation study. That is how I taught my kids some information about the Reformation this month. They are not new to the Reformation, definitely not. We have discussed it many times. We've talked about Martin Luther many times. We have read books about Martin Luther. And so it's not new information necessarily for them, but it's just something I wanted to make sure to take the time and study because I think it's important church history information. And so I hope you enjoyed seeing these resources. Make sure you look down in the description box. I'll leave a link for all of this if I can find it. Thank you so much for watching today. Also, leave any comments or questions down below and I will get to those as soon as I can. See you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.